Micron just posted record growth in its data center segment for memory at 257% year over year, but it also has higher margin now. And because it has higher profit margin, that is being extended to consumer, as we've been talking about, where the consumer segment is paying more for the privilege to buy the memory that gets left behind by the data centers. We talked as well about how we think they're probably going to be reducing the supply availability to their B2B customers who make memory for consumers so they can shift that to data centers as well. But there's new information about Micron's financials that we can dig into today, and there's also some other news in the industry about this. A new IDC report is forecasting an 8% climb in completed PC prices in 2026, directly tied to memory supply reallocation to data center. Whatever you pay for a computer, add at least 8% to that. But if you're an enthusiast and you need more memory, it's probably worse. It's also forecasting a contraction of 4.9% to 8.9% in PC market sales. Tom's Hardware published a tweet from PC builder Paradox Customs that noted the company will begin selling RAM-less computers so you can BYO memory if you have existing sticks in your possession. Of course, we're still looking forward to when you can BYO VRAM. The Register, meanwhile, cites analyst firm Tech Insights as dismissing the usual cyclical cadence that align with a drawdown in price for 2026 or 2027, estimating instead that this time the memory elevated prices may remain for longer. Micron's drastic growth and high margins with AI are why it can justify releasing new crucial memory on October 21st and then killing the brand on December 3rd. In Micron's October 21st press release for its then brand new DDR5 Pro overclocking 6400 CL32 memory, posted just 43 days before it killed the division, Micron said it was committed to gamers 2 times in one paragraph. Micron said that its new high-end memory deepened Micron's commitment to gamers and, quote, cements Crucial's commitment to PC gamers, end quote. They also said, quote, Crucial, a brand of Micron Technology Incorporated, is deepening its commitment to gamers with the debut of Crucial DDR5 Pro OC 6400 CL32 gaming DRAM, end quote. It wrote this about a month before killing the brand entirely. So, like the cake, the commitment was a lie. Micron's commitment here lasted a little over a month. They had to have known what was coming down the pipe in December when they posted this October announcement of their brand new kit of memory. It was the last thing out the door. And because they almost certainly had to have known, that means that we think someone made an active decision to deceive consumers by talking about commitment to a brand and then killing it. That is like, it's an active choice to lie that much. I refuse to accept that there's any other possibility. Memory manufacturer Micron began 2025 by introducing new crucial memory and storage products and ended the year by killing them because selling AI products for data centers makes stock line go up. In fact, Micron's stock line went up so much that Micron tripled its market cap to over $300 billion for the year. And we've already covered a lot of this story in our new, WTF series of videos about RAM prices, and then about Micron, and then about NVIDIA. But it turns out there's still more to talk about with memory prices, and they are continuing to worsen, affecting anybody who buys modern electronics, not just gamers. Although people who build high-end PCs in our audience certainly are feeling the effects. If you buy, say, 64 gigabytes of memory for workstation-type uses, and you're faced with $800 to $1,000 kits of memory, or if you buy 32 gigabytes and you're looking at the high $300, $400 range, $500 range for some of these, depending on the spec you're going with. So it's affecting this audience pretty heavily, but it also affects everybody. Before that, this video is brought to you by Height and their X50 case lineup, including the glass and air versions. The X50 and X50 Air cases have a unique, rounded design with a heavy focus on large ventilation ports in spite of the curvature of the chassis panels. The X50 and X50 Air use relatively thick stamped metals for many of the case components and have fan mount locations front, side, bottom, and back, with the top supporting a power supply in traditional top-mounted rear exhaust. The X50 series tested overall positively in our review benchmarks and made waves for its unique look, including multiple different colors, although the case also comes in traditional black and white coloring. Learn more at the link in the description below. PC system integrator CyberPower said RAM prices had increased by 500%, and that SSD prices have increased by 100% since the reference point. Maingear will likely have to increase prices due to the RAM shortage. Lenovo is stockpiling memory chips, which will lead to increased prices due to less memory on the market because obviously Dell said that it had never seen memory prices increase so quickly and is expected to raise its own prices next year. G-Skill, primarily a consumer memory brand, warned consumers about rising prices due to AI demand and even said, quote, purchasers should be mindful of the pricing before purchasing, end quote. You know it's good when the company selling the stuff is like, this is not a good deal, you really shouldn't buy from us right now. And although the normal scalpers are being outdone by the corporate scalpers right now, of course the scalpers too are benefiting, selling RAM kits on eBay at huge markups. Further, market analysis firm TrendForce predicts that smartphones and laptops will cost more and will have worse specifications going forward. In that sense, it is effectively, literally, shrinkflation. The spec is regressing to prior years, but the price is going up. Its table cites a transition down from 12GB DRAM smartphones to 8GB in the mid-range, and from 8GB to 4GB at entry level, and with notebook shipments projected to shift towards 8GB primarily. Our technology is regressing. TrendForce also expects fewer console sales next year due to the RAM shortage, projecting demand growth as dropping from 1.7% for notebooks to minus 2.4%. From 0.1% in phones to minus 2.0%, and from minus 3.5% in consoles to minus 4.4%. These changes, again, are due to the AI and data center demand and growth and the metastasis of this that has caused the exorbitant pricing in consumer as the cancer cells of AI and data center have broken free and sort of infected everything within the electronics market and industry. Hardware manufacturers are shifting their production to focus on AI products while reducing supply of consumer goods like GPUs. We just talked about that in the NVIDIA What the Fuck piece that you can find on the channel. It's not news to anyone that when supply goes down, the cost is going to go up for consumers, if people still want that thing, of course. Now, the story is broader than Micron, but Micron has kept consumer memory pricing at least somewhat stable historically, thanks to its first-party supply consumer sticks of memory that you can buy and their DRAM solution, and this is no longer the case. All Micron cares about right now is, you guessed it, we've got a reel for you.
Of AI to AI in AI data centers, AI-enabled phones, AI PCs, AI driven by, of course, AI for AI systems to generative AI, AI for AI and AI-enabled AI experiences.
The tech CEO mind virus continues to spread and infect all of them. Now, years ago, Micron actually did seem to care about consumers. They don't now, obviously. It's like they care so little about them that they just decided to not even sell them. But just as a reference point, the company once used Team Liquid, as in the group known for esports primarily, like StarCraft. They used Team Liquid's ad agency to buy ad campaigns for their consumer memory. That included with us on GN, where they bought ad campaigns for Micron Crucial branded memory. And so they're hiring an esports group to buy ads from Gamers Nexus. This is years and years ago at this point. It was a long time ago. It was for high-spec memory. At the time, I remember it was relatively affordable for what they were selling versus some alternatives in the market, and it seemed well-positioned. It seemed like they were really trying to kind of break into the gaming market, get noticed by the gaming user base. And it was interesting because at that time, I remember the conversations being that they were specifically trying to establish the brand as a consumer enthusiast-oriented brand, not just a sort of boring enterprise brand, which is interesting because now they would really prefer to just be a boring enterprise brand, and they want to distance themselves from all that loser consumer gaming bullshit and move to AI, which is really just me saying, I do think that obviously at the end of the day it's all about money and who will buy the most of the thing from the company, but they really did seem like they were targeting the enthusiasts, gaming, and normal end user audience and trying to distance themselves from boring enterprise while still maintaining sales there. But there's more money to be made elsewhere today. Micron just made $13.6 billion in the last quarter due to data centers hoovering up all the memory chip supply. And Micron, famous for boom and bust cycles, wants the AI boom to last indefinitely. Thanks to Micron's lucrative partnership with NVIDIA, billion-dollar government incentives, certainly not at all related to its contributions to the inauguration and the ballroom, and thanks to a global frenzy to build and power AI data centers as fast as possible, Micron has gone all in on AI. So consistent with everything else in 2025, and it's looking like now 2026, with the projected price increase on computers in total, we are all paying an AI tax on everything, sometimes literally. And memory is just another example of that. So we have a full piece on the memory twice now, that situation, but it's still developing. Usual quick background as we get into this. There are 3 major memory suppliers. There's a couple others, but they're not really relevant here. It's SK Hynix and Samsung in South Korea, and then Micron. These 3 control effectively all of the global DRAM supply, some of the other stuff they make as well, and they don't have many competitors. Now, there are some new up-and-comers who are not typically factored into the pie charts you'll see of distribution because they're in China. So CXMT, Chongqing Memory Technologies, is one of the most relevant that's kind of starting to break into it. They're making DDR5. It looks like they might actually gain some ground and get a foothold. So there's some new up-and-comers, but we're not talking about them today. We'll cover them in a separate piece. There's some new information, though. So we'll start with Micron's annual earnings, where there's been 2 reports we want to talk about. Micron's financials, though, show why it's obsessed with AI, like every other company that is managing to grift and rip off either other companies or governments at this point for whatever it is they say they're trying to do. And we'll start with Micron's last annual earnings report. Micron revealed its 4th quarter earnings in September when it ended its fiscal year 25 fiscal year. For its fiscal year, Micron generated $37.4 billion in revenue, including $11.3 billion in the 4th quarter. Micron's revenue increased by 49% year over year, driven by significant increases in AI demand. Micron's DRAM products accounted for 76% of its total revenue for the fiscal year, while NAND products took in 23% of revenue. NAND is what's used in SSDs for non-volatile storage, and those prices are also starting to go up. We've talked about that, though. Macro trends data shows how Micron has benefited from the AI data center build-out. Micron has grown significantly in the last year, with its revenue reaching new heights. Micron noted, quote, "In our March 2024 earnings call, we said that we expect Micron to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of AI in the semiconductor industry, and that we expect to deliver record revenue and significantly improved profitability in fiscal 2025, end quote. Micron knew already that its short-term highest profit would come from data center and AI enterprise, and they position themselves for that. Micron has 4 business units: cloud memory, core data center, mobile and client, and automotive and embedded. The cloud memory business unit focuses on, quote, memory solutions for large hyperscale cloud customers and HBM for all data center customers, end quote. Its core data center business unit includes the company's, quote, memory solutions for mid-tier cloud, enterprise, and OEM data center customers, and storage solutions for all data center customers, end quote. Micron's mobile and client business unit includes its client products, including the Crucial brand. Micron's cloud memory business unit includes its HBM, or high bandwidth memory, which we just talked about a lot in our NVIDIA What the Fuck piece. These products are those that are closely connected to NVIDIA. At GTC in March, Micron announced that its HBM3E products are used in NVIDIA's Hopper and Blackwell systems, and underscored, quote, Micron's critical role in accelerating AI workloads, end quote. The year prior, Micron announced that its HBM would be used in NVIDIA's H200 GPUs. The NVIDIA H200 GPUs are the very same ones that the US government just said it would allow NVIDIA to sell into China, even though the H200s were previously banned for export. Demand for Micron's HBM is directly tied to NVIDIA's demand for AI GPUs and its ability to make more of them and sell more of them. So adding China back into it, if China will even take the GPUs this time, there's been some back and forth we've talked about with that, that would also increase the sales for Micron because the two are directly linked. Micron's cloud memory business unit grew by 257% year over year. In just 1 year, the company's core memory business went from about $3.8 billion to $13.5 billion in revenue. That's almost $10 billion more in revenue in 12 months. Micron said, quote, HBM revenues reached a new quarterly record, end quote, in the quarter. Micron's core data business unit didn't grow as much, but still increased by 45% year over year from about $5 billion in revenue to over $7 billion. Meanwhile, the company's mobile and client revenue grew by 2% over the same period. Micron's mobile and client business made about $11.9 billion in revenue for fiscal year 25. Overall, Micron's revenue attributed to AI and cloud memory skyrocketed, while its mobile and client revenue hardly increased compared to its prior fiscal year, although some of this is, of course, a feedback loop caused by moving supply and focus to AI. Micron has made memory supply for other consumer-facing memory stick manufacturers to buy for basically its entire existence, and it has run Crucial as a brand for 30 years now, which is the consumer-facing first-party memory that they sold. And in a single year, the company makes more revenue from its cloud memory business than its mobile and client segment, and it snuffs it out. Micron's margins are also higher for AI products compared to the consumer segment. Micron's cloud memory business had an operating margin of 48% in the fourth quarter. The mobile and client businesses had an operating margin of 29%. So it's no wonder that they also started to drag the consumer-facing margin up. We'll talk about that. Speaking of Crucial's new memory, PC Part Picker shows that Micron's new Crucial DDR5 Crucial Pro overclocking 32GB DDR5 6400 CL32 memory climbed from $175 to $322 since its launch in October, nearly doubling in price. Checking this during editing, but after initial writing, we actually see it's actively testing the $350 price point now. The product sold out at Best Buy and B&H at the time of original writing. Amazon has the Crucial overclocking memory available though for $440, representing a 2.5x increase since October. If you brought that to any financial advisor, they would tell you that you're a damn genius for investing in such a quickly appreciating asset. When Micron killed Crucial, it said that the decision, quote, reflects Micron's commitment to its ongoing portfolio transformation and the resulting alignment of its business to secular, profitable growth vectors in memory and storage, end quote. And like we've said previously, they're gonna need some Dramamine for that spin because they're so committed to consumer memory that they're killing it. Again, Micron launched its latest Crucial DDR5 memory and then killed the brand in 43 days. Micron doesn't care about consumers. Micron wants to raise its stock price and milk the AI infrastructure bubble while collecting billions of dollars in federal and state incentives and in tax breaks. But getting into some of the newer material, there's another earnings report, which is from December. So 2 weeks after taking Crucial out to pasture, after sending Crucial to a farm in upstate New York, Micron released its latest earnings for the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. Micron is positioning itself as what they call a, quote, essential AI enabler. Now we're getting the corporate buzzwords in there too. While making $13.6 billion in revenue during the quarter, a 57% year-over-year increase. On the post-earnings call, Micron said the memory shortage isn't even close to being done.
We are in a very interesting environment where the aggregate demand for both DRAM and NAND is substantially higher than the ability to supply to it, not just from a Micron perspective, but even at an aggregate industry level.
Micron's cloud memory business made $5.28 billion, again topping its mobile and client business unit, which made $4.25 billion. Micron's margins increased across all four of its product groups, and Micron is putting its government subsidies and tax incentives to work by increasing its capital expenditures to $20 billion over the fiscal year. But, of course, this is primarily to cover its HBM supply, not consumer stuff. Even Micron said that it's, quote, more than sold out, end quote.
The demand on us is so much higher than the supply that even small increases in supply are not going to be able to make a dent in that demand. So we are more than sold out.
The company also said it expects new financial records for its current fiscal year, thanks to the surge in AI infrastructure spending. So basically, don't expect any change in Micron's plans. Now, we've already talked about where we think this is going. We've got a couple pieces up on that, but the two big ones are the WTF just happened one about Micron, and this is the follow-up to that, and the NVIDIA WTF piece. Our thoughts are kind of in those conclusions, and I would really encourage you to watch them if you haven't seen them. But fewer options usually means higher prices. There's maybe a little bit of an asterisk there, which is if nobody can afford anything anyway, they might not buy stuff. And so maybe there's some ebb and flow there. But I sincerely do think, as we've said in the last two pieces, that right now, if you stop buying, they don't fucking care. It's like, you don't want it? All right, fine, we made this for you. All right, you're not happy? Okay, we'll sell it to them instead. I kind of think that's what this plays out as right now. And it is a famously cartel-like industry, memory, where like actual branches of government have called it a cartel in the past, as we talked about. And they've been tried multiple times and taken to court multiple times. And actually, GN, we have an article that is cited in one of the antitrust lawsuits that Micron was being sued for at the time. So this is not news that they engage in anti-consumer behavior. It's just what's in the open. It's kind of like, was it still collusion and price fixing if they're just talking about it publicly, and maybe not. But the market is obsessed with AI. AI revolves around NVIDIA. NVIDIA darling Micron is driving memory industry decisions now, so we would not be surprised if SK Hynix and Samsung, seeing Micron's decision on Crucial, and now seeing the new earnings report, put something out of their own where they're like, we're actually also going to move supply over. Losing that option for consumer hardware, it's not good. The weird thing is right now, what we're seeing in the news since we covered Micron last time is system integrator companies moving to BYO DRAM, BYO memory, which isn't, I don't hate it. I mean, if you have memory in your possession and you can reuse that, I guess, it's an option. It's not thrilling, because you're buying a pre-built and then you're still doing some assembly required, although they typically fuck up the XMP and the Expo stuff anyway, so maybe it's for the best. But at least it gives an option where you don't want to spend $500 on 32 gigabytes of memory or something. You could still put sticks in from your previous build. What I think is potentially going to happen next, and what we're starting to see on secondhand sales for CPUs, is an increase in some CPU prices. So something to think about is that X3D in particular is better at sort of circumventing lower performing, higher latency memory kits in terms of their performance limitations, because you're not hitting memory as often. So I ran into a viewer not long ago locally, and the viewer asked me, hey, I'm building a computer soon. I don't know if I should buy or wait. And I was like, I don't really want to tell you to wait and then it gets better, but it does seem like it's going to get worse. And the forecast suggests that. And the advice I gave the viewer was, if you can upgrade to something like X3D in socket from non-X3D, that might kind of help if you are memory bound specifically by the spec of your memory kit, not by the capacity, because then you might be able to kind of make up for some of those differences just by the fact that if you look at any of our old benchmarks of memory speeds, when it's on an X3D part, it's not as impactful as non-X3D, and that's simply because you just don't hit it as much, and you can stay within the cache of the CPU for more of the operations that you're running, so more of the transactions stay local to the CPU and its cache. So that's something to think about as kind of like an option. It doesn't solve the problem if you need more capacity. I noticed when people were asking me for recommendations on pre-builds they could buy for their kids and stuff for Christmas and holidays, that a lot of the pre-builds now are moving towards 16 gigabytes, where previously they were 32, presumably because otherwise the price of the pre-built is completely untenable and non-viable for people, or they just, the general market hasn't yet heard about the memory situation and would just think they're getting ripped off, because they are, but for different reasons maybe. So anyway, that's kind of the update. This was more of, we ran through their reports and found some interesting conflicting statements. So there you go. We got more coming up. As always, subscribe for more. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly, or patreon.com/gamersnexus, and we'll see you all next time.